Okay, good afternoon. Thanks for joining us. My name is Elise Vernon. I am the gallery manager at Olson-Larsen Galleries. This is Susan Watts, the gallery owner. And today we're going to be talking to Raluca, Iancu, and Jennifer Sheuer. They are in our current exhibition called Dwelling on Dwellings, and we're so glad to have them participating. Let's see, Jennifer and Raluca first met in graduate school at the University of Tennessee in Knoxville. And Raluca is currently an assistant professor in the art and visual culture printmaking at Iowa State University in Ames. Her work tends to explore disaster, memory, and vulnerability through different media, ranging from printmaking to performance, edible art, and printed objects. Like I said, she earned MFA in studio art printmaking from the University of Tennessee at Knoxville and BFA in printmaking from the Nova Scotia College of Art and Design in Halifax, Canada. She has exhibited internationally at venues including galleries and museums in Poland, Macedonia, Romania, Korea. The list goes on and on. She's very well-rounded. And we're so happy to have her.
And Jennifer Sheuer is an assistant professor at Purdue University. She's an artist who's invested in lithography, safer printmaking practices, and the history of print. Sheuer has attended artist residencies all over the country, including the Oak Spring Gardens residency in Upperville, Virginia, the Women's Studio Workshop in Germany, and St. Michael's Print Shop in St. John's, Canada. As Elise pointed out, Sheuer received her MFA at the University of Tennessee, where she met Raluca. She also attended the Tamarind Institute Printers Training Program in Albuquerque, New Mexico, a very prestigious program. Jennifer's BFA is from Minnesota State University in Moorhead, Minnesota, so a little closer to where we are now.
Yeah.
Probably these artists going all over the country, so that's wonderful. I'll hand it back over to Elise.
Yeah, so we're just going to have a conversation today. We'll start off with Jennifer and Raluca talking about the kind of genesis of the project that we have included in the exhibition called #PandemicFridge. And then we'll just kind of go from there. So take it away.
Thank you so much for having us. We're very happy to be a part of this show, and it's a fantastic show.
Yeah.
We started working together through print portfolios, which are kind of specific to our discipline. So I'm going to share some images of some of our earlier collaborative works, where a print portfolio, basically there's an organizer and all the participants that are invited create their own print, and then we all have a collection of the work. So these are images from a portfolio that Jennifer organized. So she can tell you more about that.
Yeah, something both Raluca and I have had is a communal interest in kind of sculptural object or book as well, which has kind of generated an interest together in wanting to collaborate. So we've done a couple of projects where one of us has been an organizer, and this is a project that I had organized in 2017. And basically the idea was that artists would create a diptych. The image on the left-hand side was an earlier practice or way of working, and then the image on the right side was more reflective on a contemporary practice of working. So this kind of active self-reflection in this book. So you can see here are two spreads of our work.
Nice.
This is when I was really into roadkill.
As one does.
And then I organized a portfolio. I think this was either 2018 or 2019. I think it was 2018, which our yearly printmaking conference took place in Las Vegas. So we organized the Las Vegas pop-up strip, with each of the participants being given a block on the main strip. So everyone had to figure out how to turn their either their building, or some people got like more of an intersection kind of space, how to turn it into a pop-up element. Yeah. And again, inspired by Jen's previous portfolio, which is supposed to be assembled into a book, this one as well, it's supposed to be assembled into a big collaborative pop-up book.
And there's also this like beautiful history of the object and printmaking and making sculptural objects. You can see here that we have examples of the work laid out flat and kind of thinking about the arrangement and that as an aesthetic object as well. So everybody in this portfolio received both the flat piece and the folded piece. So that part of it could be assembled, but the other one could be used, as a collection or a teaching collection, kind of sharing this experience. And one of my favorite artists is Red Groom. So, for me, this was exciting in that regard to have this both object and flat piece.
Sure.
He's one of my favorite artists too. And we both work using a combination of collage and book arts as well. So here is some of the work that I was making quite recently prior to our collaborative project. So I was creating these big relief prints where I would be printing the background blocks from one block and then all the elements up front from a different block, and kind of playing around with these different elements, reconfiguring them into different compositions, which I think actually relates a lot to what we were doing in the pandemic fridge project as well. And this is Jennifer's work.
Yeah, so I've been interested in making kind of sculptural books and objects about places. So I have a couple examples of, this is a completed project, and then the next one is an example of a project in progress. But the first book, the blue book, was a tunnel book. And so you can see here, there's like depth and layers. So I'm kind of telling this narrative about being in this space and being in conversation with someone across the table. And then the second piece is a book that's in progress that I'm working on, which is going to be a book about pharmacy and the history of pharmacy, kind of going through this space over time. So it's based on a pharmacy museum in Krakow, Poland.
Huh.
So there's kind of this communal interest here with both of us in this sculptural object and kind of visual play. You can see, this example, I'm working with a lot of ideas and objects and assembling them together. Yeah. So we had this idea that we wanted to collaborate together, we talked about traveling places, going places, and making work in response. And then we were invited to a virtual artist residency in the summer of 2020, and we decided to take on collaboration together at that point.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, some more slides. This is some of my book work. So it's that same structure that Jennifer had in her last book. It's the carousel book format. And yeah, so we were at this digital art residency, but Jen was passing through town, so we were able to meet up and talk 6 feet away from each other, and start to develop some sketches for this collaboration that we really weren't sure. Actually, you can see an image of an early fridge prototype right in the middle of that sketch on the slide. And I feel like this project really is very much, not only image wise is it pandemic related, but also in the making of it. Because we were virtual, we started crowdsourcing images. So this was the call for contributions that we put out on Instagram and Facebook. And then we got a lot of submissions. So I have folders full of these images of like people's fridges, which is a bit of a weird thing to own because they're so personal, I think. So I'm really amazed that so many people decided to share with us their images of how they had their fridges set up. And then we took the image.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, sorry, go ahead.
I was saying it was kind of unexpected in regards to, as we talked about traveling places and making work together, that then when we were suddenly stuck at our homes, thinking about, well, okay, how can we engage with this? Or like, what experiences are we having in the moment? And suddenly like food and grocery stores, and your fridge at home, like became so much more significant. Like a lot of things weren't available in the grocery stores anymore. Like access was changed a lot, for a lot of people in their relationship with food. So those were all driving factors in creating this work as well.
Yeah, that's right. We were thinking about how all of a sudden such a banal act like going to the grocery store became fraught with tension, and it was almost like an adventure, but a scary one. We still didn't know a lot about, is it okay to touch things? Is it like, how long can I be in the grocery store for? There's someone down the aisle. Should I go the other way? All that kind of stuff. And I think for me, it had been a really long time since I had been to the grocery store. Like I remember my first trip was a little scary, I would say. So that's definitely where this project came from, thinking about these new experiences due to the pandemic. And then we took the images that we received and we started carving all of the contents. And these are some of the works that are in the gallery. I'm sorry, I don't have images of Jen's food plates. But you can kind of go through, and if you had the images, you would be able to kind of recognize some of the items from different people's fridges.
And Raluca pre-planned an aesthetic design to her carvings and compositions. But what was funny is, since we were both working on this and working from a distance, like as we carved the fridges, we said, okay, they're going to be, 9 by 5 inches, but we didn't really talk about the size of the food. So mine ended up being scaled a little larger in size. And so as we were starting to put these collages together, that created some humor in the work as well, or like being able to only choose certain things that logically would make sense.
Yeah.
That's funny.
So when you're saying that you're carving the plate, can you tell people kind of about that relief process a little bit?
Yeah, so I actually, oh no, I don't have them out because I took them to a residency this summer. But I carved in a material called Sintra, which is a type of expanded foam. But basically the idea is that you carve away everything that you don't want to print. So looking at these images, and these are printed in color ink on colored paper. So it's a little bit tricky, but everything that is, let's say on the bottom left here, everything that is cream is actually the paper color and the orange is the ink. So everything that is the lighter color in this particular print would have been carved away.
Yeah.
And Jen, you were carving linoleum?
Yeah, I carved linoleum for my projects. Something fun about this too was that as we were working together, we both kind of have different color palettes that we work in, and so as at one point over the last summer in 2020, we had gotten together to print these, and we had all of this colored paper, and we each mixed colors, but like the choices that we would have made on our own were different than what it was together. So it was really this opportunity, when we did come together over the scope of this project, there was a lot of kind of dialogue and learning from one another as well.
There were definitely a couple of moments where I was like, wait, you're going to print that on that? Oh my God, it works.
Eureka. Nice. Okay.
And then we envisioned kind of putting all these collages together in the format of an artist book. And that is one of the pieces that is in the gallery. Ooh.
Yeah.
So there's that format, but then there's also just the collages themselves, which I was really happy with how all of these came out, actually.
And I think one of the over time as well, where we started with, just the color paper and ink and making collages, to then, working with coloring the work as well with watercolor, or working with transparency layers. So kind of there's been this evolution of what this work looks like on the, black surface as well. And so there's kind of this evolution of experimentation happening in this work.
And I'm glad you brought that up, Jennifer, because just to make sure, like the hand coloring that happened, I mean, that's very, very precise. And I'm just glad you brought that up.
Yeah.
So people know.
Yeah. And so these individual pieces that you have here, those are, like you said, what, 9 by 5 inches. So each item of food can be like half an inch or an inch, or just really tiny. So to give people an idea of scale, that you cut each individual item out and then did the hand coloring and all of that is crazy. It's amazing.
Yeah, I was really delighted when we had also printed on parchment paper, and we realized that we could actually color them from the back. So some of the more transparent objects, they're actually like in the top right here, that's all just the parchment paper with some white ink on the back. So I was really delighted to make that discovery as well. I feel like there's been a lot of learning throughout this process.
Sounds like it.
Yeah, I really like those ones specifically because it's kind of like a compulsive midnight snack feeling when you go to the fridge, and which again kind of speaks to everybody's experience of the unknown and the anxiety of what's going on, or all of that. So lots of different layers, physically and metaphorically there.
Well, and then what do you stock up on? Oh, sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
Well, I was just gonna say, like, what do you stock up on? What do you value? I think it does become interesting to think about in terms of personality and value and identity as well.
And also access, like being able to have the resources for all of the fresh foods, or how often you went to the store, how much you were cooking at home. Sometimes it's a lot of leftover, or in packaging. So that really changed, too, kind of. And that was what we communicated as we were making these collages as well. We've talked a little bit about like where this is going in the future. Now we've made a lot of these collages, and we've made the prototype of the artist book that's in the gallery right now. And Raluca had made quite a few of these folded pages with the pieces inside. And so we're talking about that maybe that's going to be the direction that these pieces take on in the future in these artist books, and maybe making something on the backside of the folded page as well, like referencing the fridge. So there's this act of play again.
Okay.
Yeah.
I really love looking at these and seeing where like you cut through the door or through the baskets, like here, the top left one. I love those moments, especially thinking back. I hadn't looked at your artist books in a little while, and seeing those moments of like cutaways and these surprises. I think it's really lovely to revisit and to connect those two together. Another thing that I think is kind of funny is that as we were doing the collages, we forgot who had printed what. So like I have no idea who made any of this. Between
I was gonna say that's the sign of a seamless project, right? And I really like that you brought up the kind of aspect of play, because it was really fun for us when we were unwrapping them to look at the front and the back and just really examine them. And those cutaways that you're talking about, on the backs of some of them, we can see the slit where the items are like peeking up through, in the bottom kind of crisper drawer, and then just arranging them in such a way that looked delightful on the gallery wall was really fun.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. And just one thing I want to interject, if I may. It's been fun hearing people react to them.
Mm-hmm.
Just anecdotally, like not us interacting with, but like the other day I was here and there's two friends were in, oh, that totally looks like your fridge. That would be your fridge.
Yeah.
It's like, oh yeah, no, this is more mine. And they're kind of chuckling about it. And so obviously this is a very engaging piece, and I think it will be for a long time. And something else too, when you were talking earlier about the impetus for making it, is I feel like there were so many conversations I had about going to the store. We talked here about going to the store. Which store are you going to go to? Did they have this? Did they have that? Or I call my mom and say, this place has toilet paper. I mean, the whole toilet paper. But just a lot of, like Elise said, a lot of layers.
Yeah. Psychological layers and beyond.
And for me, I see this really as kind of humorous, kind of odd work, but that intimacy that you're talking about, people coming in the gallery and saying, oh, this is kind of, like you, or so, like that definitely was my experience, both with making them and also like viewing all of these fridges that we had crowdsourced as well.
Sure.
Yeah, it's very relatable, very universal, but very specific too, which is great. We've had, like Susan said, a few comments. The one the single fridge where there's just one carton of milk. It's like, yep, that was me for about 3 weeks or whatever it was. So yeah, it's really, really fun.
That's fantastic. I love hearing that.
Yeah. So you had mentioned you printed so many now, and there are plans for another artist book, or how do you see that kind of keep going, or?
Yeah, I mean, I think what we had envisioned was making a series of 6 of these with different collages inside, so they were going to be variable.
Okay.
As objects. We've also talked about kind of a series of other things related to this experience. Like I've wanted to make a conveyor belt book that was a snake book, so it kind of like unfolded in a kind of maze-like fashion.
Nice.
And I documented my first trip to the grocery store. So I actually have a map where I was tracking like where I was going, what was happening. And so I also want to make a book of that. In addition to a book of all the empty shelves. So I had been documenting all of those as well.
But hopefully in the future, there's an opportunity to travel and collaborate and make artist books as well.
Sure.
But it's been a fun project.
Good. So yeah, like we've talked about, this has just been kind of a humorous and kind of delightful project to have in this show specifically. The show is called Dwelling on Dwellings. So we wanted to kind of speak to everybody's experience over the past year and a half, but in a lighter way, because everything else has been so heavy related to the pandemic. So, in the artists and projects that we chose for the show, we wanted it to again speak to that experience, but be lighter and just give you an idea of hope and comfort. Speak about home, but in a comforting way.
Sure.
So it's been a good show, and this project has been nice to have on the walls.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Thanks so much for including us. It's been great to see all of the work, at a distance.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
The show looks fantastic. I was able to see it a week or two ago, and I really enjoyed being in the gallery with the work.
Good. Yeah, we had, this was the first show in the past year and a half that we had an actual opening reception for, and we didn't know how many people would come or what, but it was a good turnout. Didn't feel too close.
Yeah.
Didn't feel too packed. But yeah, everybody who was able to join us, really great response to the show, and so it's been great.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And the show is up through September 24th.
September 24th is the closing. So all who are able to come should definitely come by the gallery and see everything in person. But if not, you can see it on our website, olson-larsen.com, on the exhibition page. And so where can folks find your work, the two of you, and what's coming next?
So my work is available on my website, which is ralu.ca. So it's just my name with a period in the middle of it. I'm also on Instagram at Raluca_Iancu. And there's a couple of shows coming up. Actually, if you're in Iowa, I will have a solo show up at Waverly in January. So we'll see how that goes.
My website is my name, basically www.jenniferscheuer.com. A lot of my work is about plants and medicine and history as well, so a little different than the Fridge Project.
Yeah.
A couple shows I have coming up. I'm in the Mid-America Print Council juried exhibition and the ink only exhibition, which is in Alabama.
Awesome. So we're gonna release this recording on our YouTube channel next week, and we'll put links to your websites in there, and to the show page and everything. So Thank you so much for joining us today. We really appreciate you giving us some insights into your collaboration and the project. And yeah, thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Mhm.